Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we shoot things like civilized people, because this week we watched Arachnids in the UK.
Written by Chris Chibnall.
Directed by Sally Abrahamian.
And aired on October 20th, 2018.
Damn, Chris, getting all the directors with names I have no idea how to pronounce. It's just a string of 11 names I don't know how to say. Oh well. Not like they'll be listening to this show.
You never know.
You're right, I don't know. Maybe they are listening. If you're listening, you should write in and tell us how to pronounce the name. Or better yet, just be on the show and pronounce your name for us.
Or better yet, get us those sweet, sweet BBC jobs.
Great.
I almost applied to a position at Big Finish.
Nice.
But then I didn't.
But why not? Should have just done it.
I forgot.
You forgot? What?
Yeah. Forgot.
So this is one of the last things we're recording this decade, but it won't go out until next decade.
Yeah, weird how that all plays out.
If you're listening to this episode, you won't have heard us since last decade.
And, since we're talking about the inevitable shift from the 2010s to the 2020s, I just want to point out here, somewhat unrelated, but, people, I just watched The Rise of Skywalker a couple days ago.
Greatest Star Wars movie of this decade.
And, people say it was a mistake for Disney to buy Lucasfilm and take over Star Wars, but they were wrong. Rey Who is the last great meme of the 2010s, and for that, it was all worth it.
Well, to all the people who say George Lucas should have done the sequel trilogy, I'm going to say you're wrong. I'm going to point you to the article where George is like, I wanted to set the entire sequel trilogy in the plane of the midichlorians, and I wanted the main characters to be the Wills, who were these beings who lived alongside the midichlorians, these microscopic beings who lived alongside the midichlorians, and that was what the sequel trilogy was going to be about. So
it sounds awesome.
It sounds terrible.
I don't dislike the sequel trilogy, but that sounds like it could be great.
Yeah, it sounds like it could be terrible.
Well,
This is George Lucas. So his execution will be absolutely 110% way below par.
You mean like how it was for the prequel trilogy? Oh, wait, the prequel trilogy is actually good.
Could have been way better executed. Just could have been way better executed. And by way better executed, I mean like literally anybody else would have executed those ideas better and it would be better liked.
Not me. I wouldn't have done it any better.
Wow. I like how you're throwing yourself on your sword for this. You've decided to just become the pariah.
Look, this is the hill that I've chosen to sacrifice myself on. Prequel trilogy was good. Don't care what anyone says. Attack of the Clones is still the worst Star Wars movie, but prequel trilogy was still good.
Because they named it Attack of the Clones, and the clones don't even attack till the final 30 seconds of the movie, and even then we don't see them attacking.
That's not why it was bad.
It is a part of. It is a part of. Anyway, if you want more thoughts on Star Wars, go check out Triple Play, our movie podcast.
We're just coming back in a couple weeks, probably.
Couple weeks. Well, like a month.
Yeah, a month, couple weeks, same difference.
Anyway, I kind of enjoyed this story, which is a twist because our fandom hates it.
Really? Well, this is one that I see people saying is pretty bad. I really liked it. I liked it a lot, actually.
I don't really understand why people say it's bad. Even the first time I watched this, I was like, hey, kind of enjoyed that.
Yeah, it's actually a very, typical, just sort of generic Doctor Who story.
Which doesn't mean it's bad.
No. That's why I'm questioning why people consider it to be...
I definitely wouldn't put this up there with Fear Her and Love and Monsters.
No, of course not.
Like some people do.
I'm just not seeing the, how this season is somehow worthy of all the 1-star reviews it's gotten on Amazon.
Maybe everybody thought, maybe all the new viewers thought the scale was reversed and 1 star was the best and 5 was the worst.
No, because
They're
most
like
of the
one, meaning
star,
number 1.
most of the 1-star reviews were accompanied by, "This sucks. This is awful. It's terrible. This is the worst show I've ever seen in my life. This is a disgrace to everything that came before it in the good name of Doctor Who."
Yeah, well, I don't trust Amazon reviews anymore. Especially not after this one review was like, this product, I was looking at products and I don't remember what it was now, but the guy was like, this product sucks, fell apart after like 2 uses. And then he's like, 1 star, edit. The company reached out to me and sent me a new one, 5 stars. And I'm like, but that doesn't change the fact that the first one you got still sucked.
Well, since we're on the topic, I'm just appalled and disturbed by the fact that people use Amazon reviews to like actually rate the show and not the DVD. Because when I think of like when I go on the DVD page or whatever, I'm expecting the ratings to be about like the quality of the box and if maybe a low review if the DVD came cracked and was shipped poorly.
Who would write a review about the DVD itself except you?
Well, that's what I imagine when people review, like if you're posting a review for a DVD, I imagine you're talking about the physical like object itself, not the quality of its contents.
For some reason, I feel like Amazon might mix the reviews from the streaming version of the show and the DVD version of the show, which is maybe why you're seeing reviews of the show. I don't know.
I don't think so. I think they're on 2 separate pages. I don't know why I'm stuck on the Amazon reviews, but it's either that or Twitter. That's the only like feedback I've ever seen for Doctor Who Series 11, so. And Twitter just hates all of it. Like, majority of Twitter just hates this season and every season
the entity
of Doctor
Twitter.
Who.
The tweet entity. the Twitspace. I'm going to make a competitor
Twits on Twitter.
Competitor to Twitter called the Twitspace.
Well, MySpace is now a music site, so anything could happen.
Well, I mean, it was going to die if it didn't adapt. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Speaking of improvising, adapting, and overcoming, Jack Robertson's talking with this woman, and she's like, look, we can't cover this up anymore. Stuff's going really bad. And he's like, well, figure it out, because if you don't, then it's your head on the chopping block. And then just right at that moment, the hero of the story, Nadia, walks in and is like, what's up? Just, thought I'd be a good employee, like my job. Wanted to come in a day before
5 in the morning.
She's like, I wanted to come in a day early, before we open to check the place out, make sure everything is ready to open. And Jack's like, well, guess what? For doing that, you're fired.
Yeah. And this is where we would get the title sequence if they were still doing the cold open. But they're not, so we don't.
Yeah.
Instead,
the great thing I realized about putting the title first is that now you can tune into the episode 2 minutes late and not miss any plot.
But they're still longer than they were before.
It's true, but still, if you look at your TV guide, I don't know who looks at physical TV guides anymore, but you look at your TV guide and it's like Doctor Who at 8:30.
Digital one.
You can load up the TV at 8:32 and still be okay. Whereas if it was like a Wrestle T episode, you'd miss the whole first 2 vital minutes of plot setup.
Well, I guess it's like, in the old days of a couple years ago, you would have to pay attention and then you could zone out for like a minute and then you'd have to pay attention again. But by that point, you'd just be like, well, I'm gone. Like, I'm not paying attention anymore. And now it's like once you start paying attention, you don't stop until the end or until the episode gets boring.
Which is usually like 10 minutes in.
This one surprisingly wasn't, though. This one was maintained my interest pretty well, because now we cut to the Doctor bringing Ryan, Yaz, and Graham back to Sheffield.
Yeah, she's just kind of flipping switches on the console like randomly. She clearly has no idea how this works. She's like, this is new tech, I'm still breaking it in. I'm like, yeah, just admit that you don't know what the console looks like now and that you don't know what any of the switches do.
But it works. Surprisingly enough, they're back right outside of Yaz's apartment.
30 minutes after they left. 30 minutes!
Yep.
Meanwhile, Tegan's over here like, damn you, Doctor.
Well,
Didn't she get to like Heathrow like a year after she left, and she had like lost her job or something? For some reason, I seem to remember that.
it was part of her fake out, write out that it was in Time Flight. She actually did get back to Heathrow, but then she decided to just stay with the doctor anyway. And then she witnessed a horrific amount of horrible things and death.
But that she didn't witness before Time Flight.
Maybe it was Khalid that did it. Just drove her psyche over the edge.
Wasn't Khalid in Time Flight?
Yes, he was. Time Flight began with them getting back to Heathrow, and that was where they caught the Time Flight.
What was the Master's plan in that one? I don't remember.
He was disguise himself as Khalid, and then reveal himself to be the Master, and then kill the Doctor.
It's like that meme with Guru where it's like, disguise myself as Khalid, reveal myself to be the Master, get my ass totally beaten. And it's like, wait, what?
Wait, with Gru from Despicable Me?
Yeah, have you not seen that meme? It's like a 4-panel meme where the first 2 panels are him explaining the plan, and the third panel is like the plan going horribly wrong, and the 4th panel is like Gru looking back in surprise at the panel that says it goes horribly wrong. It's like from when he explains the plan in Despicable Me 1 in the surrealist horror masterpiece Despicable Me.
That was Despicable Me 3.
The entire franchise. Actually, on a side note, you know what else is a surrealist horror masterpiece? Cats. And by masterpiece, I mean the worst movie I've seen in the past, 2 years. So,
furries with their pitchforks at the ready.
Furries didn't even like that movie.
I'm sure they liked the design work at least.
They didn't.
Oh, right, because it wasn't like wolves with spiky hair and like edgy backstories.
Because it was too human looking. So
I saw this tweet on Twitter the other day. Someone was like, The Rise of Skywalker was a really uncanny and weird end to the Star Wars franchise. First of all, had very little to do with the rest of the Star Wars movies. Second of all, was filled with oddly designed talking cats. Just perplexed at this direction they took the movie. And obviously the joke is that they walked into the wrong theater.
You watch Cats, and Idris Elba's character wears like a fur coat for the whole movie, so it's like, all right, it's all right. And then for his one big song, he takes it off, and I really felt like I was watching Idris Elba just naked on the movie screen. And that was very uncomfortable. Anyway, enough about Cats, because the Doctor is like, yeah, I'm going to travel alone. Definitely not fishing for an invitation to come into your house right now.
Just
definitely
like looking
not
down,
fake crying,
kicking her heels.
She's like, oh man, gonna have to travel alone. And then Yaz is like, oh, all right, you want to come in for some coffee / tea / cake.
It was tea. No, it was just tea. She didn't really offer the coffee or the cake. That's not free. Just the tea.
Well, turns out when she gets into the house, the dad's going to make some bicaret, so... Which I actually have no idea what it is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is either. I didn't even know what he said. I just wrote it down as like inexplicable mumbling.
Oh, I wrote it down in like a phonetic spelling so I would say it right on the podcast and act like I knew what it was.
Well, speaking of bickering, that's what Yaz's family seems to do a lot. So,
but it's very playful bickering.
It's like Chris Boucher.
They seem very close.
Yeah, so Yaz's dad, they all have like little quirks, which is, seems to be typical of this new Chris Chibnall era. Yaz's father just collects junk, which he piles in the corner, much to the dismay of his family.
Well, because he has some sort of conspiracy theory involving the junk turning up like out of the garbage disposal or something.
Right. And Yaz's sister is...
hitting on everyone.
Yeah, well, mostly Ryan. And she's, I guess, a high schooler? I think.
Yeah, I think so. She's definitely younger than Yaz.
Yeah, considering Yaz and Ryan are like 18, 19. And she's a very like stereotypical like Gen Z, like always on the phone type thing.
Gen Z. What's after Gen Z?
Gen question mark? I don't know.
What's before Gen Z?
Millennial.
I thought there was something in between.
No.
I thought like Gen Y was between.
I don't know. You'd think it would be. I
thought it went like Gen X, Millennial, Gen Z.
I think Millennial is also called Gen Y, which is why it's Gen X, Millennial, Gen Z. But Millennial is just like 90% of people just say Millennial.
What are we?
Well, that's just, I don't know, Millennial, I guess.
We're like in between. Like most people delineate the end of the Millennials. Hey, that almost rhymed. As like 93. But then like Gen Z doesn't start till like 2001.
Well, I think if you're born in the mid-90s, what sort of generation you kind of fall into depends on...
It's your choice.
Well, no, I think it depends on how you kind of interact with technology and view technology in a way.
Technology's great. Sign me up when they figure out a way to upload your brain into robot bodies. Sign me up. Oh, and Yaz's mom's quirk is that she asks everybody... She's a hard worker, but she asks everybody if they're dating Yaz.
Well, she actually calls Yaz now and asks to pick her up.
And she's like, don't tell Dad. I just lost my job and probably the only source of income for the family. Because it doesn't look like Dad works. He looks like a stay-at-home dad. Who apparently makes terrible bickere. Because the doctor offers... They have a package that no one was home when it got delivered, so they left it with the neighbor. So the doctor's like, you want me to go get the package while you cook your terrible bickere?
Yeah, his dad's like, okay, my daughter's weird friends. You can go do that.
For us, we just trust you with our package.
So they go and they find this woman whose name I don't even remember.
Jade.
And they find Jade, and they're like, hey, what's up? What are you doing here? She's like, I'm trying to get into my friend's house.
Anna.
Haven't seen her in days.
So they're like, oh, well, I can unlock the door if, you're concerned about Anna, know.
And it turns out Jade was just trying to, like, break and enter and rob the house or apartment. No, that's not true.
Graham doesn't actually come to get tea. He goes home.
Yeah, Graham actually refuses.
Well, he says he'll be there later. He just wants to go get his affairs in order, I guess.
Just wants to go talk with Grace's ghost for a bit.
Just wants to go hallucinate. No worries about, no worries here. So...
doesn't he reconvene with them?
Yeah, because he hears like a bump in the attic, and he goes up to the attic, and he sees a bunch of spider webs and a giant spider carcass. And he's like, that's weird. So he goes to find the doctor, but meanwhile, the doctor and Ryan and Jade are investigating. They find Anna all cocooned up.
Well, first of all, the entire place is filled with spider webs. And they find Anna cocooned on her bed.
And they're like, this is kind of weird. What's going on? And then they get vinegar and garlic paste. And apparently the smell of garlic and the acetic acid in the vinegar will keep the spider at bay, and it works. Good
to know. Good household tip there.
Does it? You can try it and report back to me if it works.
Yeah.
So,
but the whole thing is that there's also a giant spider there. That's why they're doing all of this.
Yeah,
it's coming after them.
And Jade's like, wait, I think I know what's happening. And the doctor's like, cool, tell us. And she's like, you'll have to come to my lab.
Have to come to my spider cave.
So as they're leaving the apartment, that's when they run into Graham again. He's like, you'll never guess what I found. And Ryan's like, was it a big spider? And he's like, wow, yes it was actually. How did you know?
So meanwhile, at the hotel on the outskirts of town...
Yeah. Well, it's a resort hotel.
Yeah.
There's like a golf course right outside.
Yeah, Yaz is picking up her mom, And Yaz's mom, Nadia, I don't know why I keep calling her Yaz's mom. She has a name. Is like, Yaz, you're never going to believe this, but I've been fired.
And then Jack Robertson comes in and he's like, well, guess what? If I hadn't fired you 10 minutes ago, I would have fired you now. Meanwhile, his niece's wife is she's filming the underground area, and then she gets captured by a spider, and that comes back later.
Right. Oh, and we skipped actually the part where Graham tells Ryan that he found a letter from Ryan's dad.
Yeah, at the house.
Yeah.
And Ryan's like, weird.
Yeah, I would not have guessed that Ryan's dad would, be a player at all. I wouldn't call him a major player, but like just a player at all in any of this.
Well, get ready for Ryan's dad.
Inevitable Ryan version of Father's Day incoming.
Oh no. But Ryan's dad is alive.
Yeah, but still, like maybe, they'd go back to Ryan's past with, possibly when Grace was actually still alive. I'll have to see. If that's the route they take everything. And Ryan, Yaz, and Graham are coming back for Series 12, so
True. Apparently Series 12, the Radio Times reports 2 days ago that some of the episodes in Series 12 are going to deal with the fact that the Doctor has withheld all information about her history and life from her companions, and that might cause some friction in the team in Series 12.
Possibly another real Tegan situation we might have on our hands here.
Unfortunately, we won't be able to find out live while everyone else is finding out. Might be time for me to go dark on Twitter again. Like I have to do every season of Doctor Who, because Doctor Who fans don't know how to not spoil things. Anyway, so Jade basically says, like, oh yeah, everything we did was protected by NDA, so I don't know if I can tell you this. And then I wrote down this note that I found out this recently, that if you sign an NDA, the NDA becomes null and void if they ask you to withhold or hide criminal activity. Anything illegal cannot be protected by an NDA.
Well, that's quote-unquote by law, so...
What does that mean?
I'm just saying laws aren't the end-all, be-all.
I think they are.
No, they're not.
I mean, the main reason why NDAs don't protect criminal activity is so that, like, the law protects whistleblowers. So if, like, your company is, disposing of toxic waste in a coal mine and generating toxic fumes that are poisoning the entire town, you can't sign an NDA that's preventing you from, like, hiding the fact that he's illegally dumping trash in the coal mine.
Hey, man, Snowden.
I mean, that's why companies get away with this, though, is that because people don't know that NDAs, like, can't protect criminal activity, so they'll be like, well, I'll sue the pants off of you if you go to the police about this, but, like, the NDA can't protect the company in this situation.
That's what I'm saying. Like, just because that's a thing that, like, the law says, like, the NDA can't protect the criminal activity doesn't mean that, like, in practice that's actually what's going to happen.
I mean, the NDA is null and void if you try to protect criminal activity with it. It's null and void. Pretty much any lawyer will tell you that.
But like an NDA is just a piece of paper, and laws are just memes. So,
but laws give the government power to punish.
But they give companies more power to punish than the government.
I don't know about that.
And the time they're not even like laws aren't even real.
They're on paper, so
just
therefore
ideas.
They're real.
Yeah.
So are companies, though. Companies are just ideas.
There's
you really think about it.
Yeah. There's this story by Franz Kafka called I think it's just called The Law, or it's like At the Gates of the Law or something. And it's like one page. It's very quick to read, so I'll post that in the notes. Very interesting story there, if I can find it.
So
it turns out that that the lab that Jade and Anna were working at had been performing some horrific experiments on spiders.
Yeah, because apparently spiders can keep growing. Like, as long as they live, they just keep growing. And spider silk is like one of the strongest materials known to man, which I think is true. Although you have to wonder why this lab decided the way to generate bigger and badder spider silk was to make bigger spiders instead of like replicating the polymers involved in spider silk artificially. But maybe it was cheaper to genetically mutate spiders to make them huge. I don't know. But apparently no one on the board was like, nope, I'm terrified of spiders and this is a bad idea. Apparently no one on the board saw the Green Death. So...
Well, those were maggots. Totally different species.
Similar idea, though. Similar idea. Next thing we'll know, they'll be revealed to be a malevolent AI controlling Jack Robinson. Boss 2. Boss was in Green Death, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Votan was from
War
the War
Machines.
and Mentalis was from the Armageddon Factor. Or Mentalist, or however you pronounce it. Forgot.
It reminds me of Blake 7 when in the first 3 seasons they're like, Aurak and Zen are the only AIs in the universe. And then Series D was like, surprise, everybody's got an AI.
Well, 2 things about that. 1, check out Zenith the Blake 7 podcast. And 2, remember, seasons A through C are Terry Nation's Blake 7, and Series D is Blake 7.
It's interesting because I guess that implies that Chris Boucher is really heavily into AI, which makes sense since he wrote Robots of Death for Doc 2, which is also heavily into AI. On a side note, I was at a telescope recently, and I asked the telescope operator, like, what are the coordinates of Zenith right now? And
Star 1.
Of Zenith. And she was like, you mean Zenith? And I'm like, sure, Zenith. Anyway.
Have we been living a lie? Should have just been like, have you betrayed us? Have you betrayed me? Anyway, where the heck were we in the story?
Jack Robinson is like, well, I'm going to escort you out of here soon. And then Yaz is, and after my scheduled bathroom break, and Yaz is like, scheduled bathroom breaks? What the hell?
Yeah, this character is actually quite lovable for like this corporate like guy.
Only in his hilarity.
Yeah.
He's still a dick.
Yeah.
I bet this is what people refer to when they're like, he wasn't evil enough, because like, really all he did was fire Nadja and shoot the spider who was dying already.
Well, I think at this point the Doctor and friends and and fam discover that the spider webs form a circle around Hendrix's house. Check out Inevitable, classic sci-fi podcast.
We've officially plugged all the other podcasts we have.
No, they find out that the spider webs like actually form a circle around this hotel resort thing that's being built on the outskirts of Sheffield.
Of all places.
And they're like, that's a little suspicious. Maybe we should go check this place out.
That just happens to be where Yaz's mom works.
Right.
So Yaz calls them, and the doctor's like, you wouldn't happen to be like you wouldn't happen to be at the place where your mom works, would you? And she's like, yeah, but you won't believe what we found. It's like, would you open the door? And they open the door, and like, guess what? Giant spiders. And like, wow, really? Me too.
Meanwhile, Kevin dies.
Well, see, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about for this episode was, is everybody really dead? Like, what happened to the people in the cocoons? Because when they go down into the basement to find them all, the doctor's like, oh, they're just in stasis. Like, they're just being preserved right now. But then, like, we never get any resolution to that.
Yeah, they
we never find out.
They don't go back to help them.
Back in the hotel, the doctor investigates, basically, and is like, this is kind of weird. Like, it's probably in the basement.
Yeah, because like in one of the bathrooms, the bathtub is just totally destroyed, and there's a passageway down to the like underground spider den, and
because the spider comes up through the bathtub and kills Kevin,
right? Or cocoons Kevin and drags him down,
right?
But the plan at this point is to capture a spider.
And they do.
I forget why they decide to capture one.
Well, because Jade wants to know like what's going on. She's the spider expert here, the spider scientist, you might say.
The Russian spider, you might say. I think someone references like, is this a Russian plot to like destroy us or something?
Yeah, because Jack Robinson is going to be running for president, it's revealed. And then, like, I think Nadja or Yaz says, like, you're only running for president because you hate Donald Trump so much.
Right, because this is where we find out who he is. So he's sort of a Trump-like businessman who just controls Well, he has this hotel chain, but that's just apparently one of his many industries that he, works in and was hugely financially successful in.
But who isn't a Trump-esque businessman nowadays, really?
I don't know, like newborns, maybe?
Amongst businessmen, who isn't Trump-esque?
I don't know.
No one.
Don't know.
But yeah, apparently Jack Robertson is running for president. And,
I'll vote for him. Why not?
Great! They're like, you have no government experience. He's like, doesn't matter. I know how to run things. Pretty much was Trump's argument in 2016. Got him into the White House.
It's not like Trump was the first president or famous politician who had barely any /no background in politics.
He is actually the first president with no background in politics.
Well, like other government officials were not, have little political background. Also, there are politicians who are way more known for other things, like Ronald Reagan and stuff like that. So,
but Ronald Reagan was at least governor of California before he became president.
So,
at least he had an idea of what he was getting into. At least he had an idea of what he was getting into. Anyway, yeah, Graham, like you said, the Russian plot thing, it was Graham and Ryan made, I guess, a joking recommendation that this might just be a Russian plot to undermine his candidacy. So, that he hasn't even announced yet.
Well, Graham and Ryan go off to catch a spider, and Yaz and the doctor and Nadia and Jade and Robertson, Robertson, go off to investigate what the heck is underground. And it turns out that it's a landfill built on top of a coal mine.
Built into a coal mine.
So they open this danger, no trespassing door. And they see this landfill.
There's this kind of funny scene where he tries to prevent Nadia from going in. And she's like, you're not the boss of me anymore. And I'm like, haha, that's true because he fired her. Anyway. They go in. Yeah. It's just a big dumping pit.
Yeah. Just under the hotel, festering, and
basically Jack.
Yes, it's probably a pretty bad idea to have done this.
Jack Robinson basically reveals that he's been double dipping everywhere. He finds old coal mines, turns them into landfills, and builds hotels on top of them.
Look, everything's built on top of something else, and that's what he says in the episode, I think.
Yeah, but also, you shouldn't really be dumping trash in a coal mine. I mean, this isn't even properly disposed of. There's, all these fumes and gases. I'm surprised we're not just choking to death right now on the methane.
We're just building on the hotel and the coal mine anyway, with it's just a door between the hotel and the mine, so that can't be good.
And he's like, I just signed the contracts. And she's like, but you knew that you put the landfills in the coal mines. That was your whole idea. It was your whole business practice. And he's like, well, that's true, but I don't know what goes into the landfill.
Yeah, you know what? Got to really agree with him here. You got to pay the cost to do business, whether that cost is monetary or, whether it's human lives. Or,
the views of
animal
Keon do not represent the key views of the podcast. I feel like I have to use this disclaimer a lot more often now than I did a while ago.
Well, as it turns out, the trash disposal company that Jade was leveraging at her weird little spider lab was also somewhat implicated in all of this because they were disposing radioactive Spider-Man cannon spider bodies into the landfill.
They weren't properly checking that the spiders that the lab were disposing of were actually dead before disposing of them. So Jade was like, what if one of them was slightly alive, got thrown into this big dump where nothing is properly disposed of, fed on all the food that's in here, and then had a bunch of babies. And the doctor's like, probably what happened.
But none of that's actually confirmed when you think about it. It's just
nothing ever is confirmed in Doctor Who.
It's just very likely to be the case.
We just always take the Doctor's word at her word, basically. But they decide to, while Graham and Ryan talk a bit about the letter, and Ryan's like, my dad said he's my only proper family left, and I don't like that he said that, proper family. And I'm like, Ryan,
because that's my word. You can't use that.
I was gonna say, Ryan, now we know where you got the word proper from. Because he says it in this episode too. He says something like, "This is proper weird."
Yeah. Well, they catch a spider, one of the smaller ones.
And Jade is like, "Is that the
still
biggest one out
massive
there?"
compared to normal spiders. But I mean, this episode really makes you think about like ancient times when bugs were huge. Like,
no, it really doesn't.
Made me think about it. Like, you know how, I mean, you can go back to like, the era of like dinosaurs and like early mammals and stuff and see like, I mean, you can go look on, the internet right now and see sort of artists' renditions of this era with just giant like dragonflies flying around, cockroaches as big as cars, just that kind of stuff.
No thanks. Pause.
Well, Ryan and Graham walk into the like ballroom or whatever, and that's when they're talking about the letter. And Graham is like, "Hey Ryan, did you check the ceiling?" Ryan's like, "No, why?" And Graham's like, "Because I didn't either." And they shine the flashlight up at the ceiling, and there's a huge spider on the ceiling, way bigger than any of the others we'd seen before.
Huge mama spider.
Yeah, this is supposed to be the queen, I guess.
Yeah.
I thought that queen spiders and like queen ants and just queen bugs in general like looked way different than the normal, like than their offspring. I guess not.
I don't know. I'm not an entomologist.
Guess not.
Not in this story. These are fictional spiders.
Well, the queen starts charging, but they block it behind the doors.
Right. And then the doctor comes up with this great plan to go check out Jack Robertson's safe room. She's like, maybe there's something there we can use. And they go in there, and they're like, and Jack's like, "I've got enough guns for all of us." And the doctor's like, "We're not shooting the spiders. We'll just trap them in this room and they can starve to death." And Jade's like, "Yeah, they deserve a humane death."
Yeah, I mean, this is weird in many ways. One thing about this is that the doctor is, really valuing all life, not just human life. And this is very odd because every time you move, every time you do anything, really, you kill bacteria. So, like, what? Are you just going to, like...
Bacteria don't count.
Why not? They're alive.
# bacteria lives don't matter.
Yeah, just think of, like, the millions, if not billions of bacteria we've killed just in this recording.
Well, I think a point is more like they didn't ask to be made this way. So, like, it's not really fair of us to just, like, kill them because they are this way when really we were the ones who made them this way.
I guess.
Although she's using we as in, like, you guys, because I wasn't involved in this.
Well, her plan, I guess, was to lure them in and just wait for them to die. But, like, isn't just... they talk about giving them a humane death, and that's all part of it. But isn't just shooting them way more humane and, like, less painful and less drawn out?
No, because it's like... I mean, it's like the guillotine, when you're like, oh, that's a humane death. Like, one quick swipe, you don't even feel anything. But then, like, when the blade is dull, like... takes like 3 strikes to get through and you're like in pain, your spinal cord is severed, but your head is still attached, you're still breathing. It's like that with guns. Like if you miss, like if you don't kill them on the first shot, then they're just in pain, bleeding out.
Just shoot a few more times, don't... Well, okay, first of all, let's take a step back. I think humane is a very odd word to use since that's like all about humans and stuff and not spiders.
Yes, but think about it. There's a reason why like the death penalty doesn't just put a gun to the prisoners' heads and blow their brains out. Because it's painful, and like if you miss, and like there's still a chance that you could live through that,
you could
and then
choose
you'd be
to die by like firing squad.
Yeah, but it's just not humane.
I just think that it's a more like
views of Kia do not
ethical
reflect the views
like
of the
death
podcast.
to just shoot the hell out of the spiders than to wait for them to like suffocate and or starve.
Well, it's also more risky for them. The people doing the shooting.
Exactly. Let's be... So this... No! We need to come clean and really, really reveal why they're doing this. It's for their own sakes. It's for their own skins. It's not for the good of the spiders. I call BS on everything the doctor says and stands for in this episode.
I don't. They go down... Jack smuggled a gun into his jacket when they went to go into the coal mines originally because he steals it from Kevin, who's cocooned up there. Anyway, so the doctor gathers up some essential oils, saving the day. Hell yeah.
Well, the way they lure the spiders into the room is that someone, I think it's probably
It's
Jade.
Ryan.
Well, Jade, I think, says like spiders are
that's the
attracted to their
doctor.
food by vibrations.
That's the doctor.
And then Ryan suggests playing this like radio or streaming station or whatever. And Yaz is like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Yaz, you were so uncool right now."
He plays this genre has a name that I
Grime?
knew once.
Grime?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that.
Brit hip hop or something like that. Brit rap or something like that.
Brit hop.
And it somehow works. I'm not really going to question how or why it works. But they lock all the baby minis, the mini, like relative to the queen, but like still huge,
Bigger than you, bigger than human.
in the safe room. And they're like, well, they'll die eventually. And then they're like, they don't really go over the fact that when they do die, they'll have to again correctly dispose of these carcasses by ensuring that they're all dead.
Yeah, you know, the entire, that's the other thing, is like once people like start staying at this hotel, not only is there going to be a disused coal mine and a garbage pit underneath the hotel, there's also going to be these mutated spider carcasses.
Well, there are disused coal mine garbage pits under all of Jack Robertson's hotels, and that's like,
And now there's even more sketchy stuff under this one.
oh well. What you don't know can't hurt you.
Yeah, let's go with that.
If I stayed at a hotel and I didn't know there was a coal mine full of garbage and dead giant spiders underneath, I wouldn't care. Then, like, if you told me a week later, I'd be like, oh, well, I didn't know anything. There's a funny line in here where Nadia, when they find out that all the trash is being dumped in the coal mine, she's like, damn, so my husband was right. Do you know how annoying it is when my husband is right?
Well, at this point, the only spider left is the queen, so they decide that they want to go kill the queen.
With essential oils.
But it turns out the queen has become too big to like support its own body and is already dying, so they just decide to wait out its death until our hero, Robertson, shows up. Jack Robertson, is that his name?
Yeah.
Shows up with a gun, aka his ticket to the White House. Because
He
it
shoots the
turns
spider
out
and he leaves,
that
and he's
the
like,
best way to get elected is by shooting mutants. Shoots the spiders, like, my work is done here.
And the doctor's like, yo, what the heck? She was literally dying already. All you had to do was wait. Like, what was the point? He's like, well, I just sped up the process. And then he just leaves.
Exactly.
And we never see him again.
We're all dying, so might as well speed up the process.
All right. How about you go jump off the bridge first?
All right, I'll lead the pack. I'll set the example.
It'll be like what would happen if Jim Jones drank the Kool-Aid first and everyone else is like, yeah, I'm going to pass.
Yeah. So, they all just go home. Not much else they can do.
Well, yeah, they go home, they eat some food, and then they go to the doctor, they meaning Graham, Ryan, and Yaz, and they're like, hey, we want to travel with you. And she's like, are you sure? Because, and this is a quote I really like. She says, you're not going to come back the same person who left here. So you got to be, like, extra sure.
And they're like, all right, never mind then.
They're like, that wasn't in the deal. No, actually, they're like,
they
yeah,
decide
yeah.
to go, yeah. And Graham thinks it's actually a good thing that they're about to be scarred for life.
Well, he's like, if I just sit at home, I'm just going to, mope around the house. I'm going to be depressed because, that house is just basically Grace in a nutshell. I need to get out of this place.
He could join that, like, senior group.
You could
that
join
Wilf
the Wilf's
was a part
senior
of.
group.
He could drive the bus. I mean, he is a
I want to see a crossover
driver.
now between Wilf and Graham.
Might as well throw in Brian.
Come on, Big Finish, make it happen. You can call it, like, oldies or something. And the whole plot can be that just them looking for the doctor, but the three of them are looking for a different incarnation of the doctor, and they don't realize it. And that creates hilarious moments when they're all, like, looking for different things in the doctor.
Could have been pretty good, but unfortunately I didn't get or even apply to that Big Finish job, so probably not.
The biggest
happen.
twist could be when they find the first doctor, another oldie. And he's like, who the hell are you people? And they're like, Who are you? See, this writes itself. This literally writes itself. This is pure gold. Pure gold. Anyway, the story ends and we get a preview for the Saranga Conundrum. And that's that.
Yeah.
The Pting is next week. They're like...
Yeah.
It's definitely in the group of overpowered as hell villains that you can't really rank against each other because they're all so overpowered. You can like...
Well, it looks a lot like an axolotl, which if Julio Cortázar's stories are to be believed, axolotls also have overwhelming godlike powers.
Great.
So, there we go.
Well, just like the ambassadors of death, prepare for another invulnerable, indestructible, completely unstoppable force that basically kills you when it touches you. It's the Pting. At least it's really fun to say. Pting.
Well, I'm ready. I was born ready. Just like I was born ready for these name drops of famous people that the 13th Doctor name dropped in this episode.
Yeah, so she's only met one of the people, I think, that she names drops.
Yeah.
Which is Amelia Earhart, so we can add that to the list of people she's met with Elvis, Pythagoras, and Audrey Hepburn. So
yeah,
it's a growing list.
But since she just seems to just be name dropping famous people, I think it's pretty. I think it's a pretty good idea to just name all of them. Just really get those on the list. So we've
already named Banksy, which she dropped last week, but didn't indicate that she met.
Well, she
seemed to allude to the fact that she was. Yeah.
Well, we have Ed Sheeran,
who she has no idea who he is.
She thinks Robertson is Ed Sheeran for like a while. And we have Edith Wharton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like two lists of name drops here. There's the ones who's the Doctors met, which is like growing increasingly long by the week. Like it's growing at a much faster rate than it was during any of the other Doctors' tenures. Well, and the people she just randomly name drops.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And since we freed ourselves from the shackles of the sonic screwdriver count, we won't be doing that. But yeah,
quotes.
Overall... Oh yeah, quotes, which I never have.
I just like Jack Robertson's quote. They're in the safe room and he's like, get a gun and shoot things like a civilized person, because he's complaining about the fact that in the UK there's like no open carry, basically. And that's it. Those are my quotes.
Yeah, I had none. So there we go, yet again. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much else to say about this other than overall, I think it was a really good episode.
Yeah, I liked this story. I think a lot of people's issues with the story come from, like, it being critical of Trump and having a Trump analog in the story, but also like indicating that Donald Trump also exists in this universe, which like I don't have a problem with, because like it's not like Donald Trump has the market cornered on sleazy businessmen who run for president, as the fact that Michael Bloomberg announced a presidential candidacy a month ago indicates. So
well, it's like the thing is, it's like this episode. I mean, it's actually. I mean, it's not that thematically interesting, because it's like, all right, who doesn't know this? But like, yeah, corporations are bad, and the people who run them are like evil at heart. And Trump, it alludes to Trump as like being part of this, which he like very much is. So
yeah, but again, like I said, it's not like Trump has the market cornered on sleazy billionaires who run for president. Michael Bloomberg and Tom Steyer both running for president in this election cycle, basically proving that. So. It's, so it's not unbelievable, I guess, that Jack Robertson also wants to run for president, because, I mean, Trump opened this door, and I don't even think it's, like, that overtly critical of Trump. I mean, clearly Robertson is, like, a Trump analog, at least in my opinion, and you know, the whole Russian interference thing is, like, clearly a jab at the whole scandal with the Russians influencing the election in favor of Trump. But I think it works. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and it's not like beat you over the head with it. It doesn't like come out and say, Jack Robertson, you are basically like Donald Trump.
It doesn't give him an awful comb over and hair dye job.
It doesn't come out and tell you, like, it doesn't turn to the audience like Sarah Jane Smith in the Peloton and go, you know what's wrong? Billionaires running for president. Like, it shows you that, maybe. You can pull that meaning out of the story. Let me say that.
Sure.
But yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I don't really have many problems with it. Except for the fact that what the hell happened to the cocooned people? Do they live? Do they die? We don't really know.
Just alive under the hotel. They have to
Just
live
for
out the rest of their
life.
days in this like underground coal mine garbage dump.
Anna's just cocooned in her bed for the rest of her life.
Maybe Underworld actually takes place on like a way, way future Earth. And this is like the genesis of Underworld.
This is the worst fan theory we've ever had on this podcast.
Well, considering I don't remember Underworld other than the fact that like a lot of it took place underground, seems to be a good direction to take this theory.
Speaking of fan theories, I saw on the Graham Norton show, The Rock was on the Graham Norton show with Jodie Whittaker, and he wore a pink suit. And I was like, that's what he would wear if he was the Doctor. That
Hell
pink
yeah.
suit.
Hell yeah.
Bright, like
You mean
neon
when
pink.
he's the Doctor.
When he's the Doctor. That's what The Rock's gonna wear. Just throwing that out there for all you fans keeping up with the Dylan and Keon Doctor Who canon universe.
AKA the future of Doctor Who.
You heard it here first, folks. Well, on that note, if you would like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decorativevegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters, your thoughts on arachnids in the UK. You can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify, all at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. Next time we're watching, I don't really know how to pronounce this, the Saranga Conundrum.
Yeah.
Until then, the end.